Bitcoin Layer 2s have been one of the most concentrated bets of crypto VCs in the first quarter of 2024. And the trend does not seem to be slowing down. Starting with ordinals in 2023, continuing with the BIP20 token standard, then continuing with Runes token standard, and now we have a very driven ecosystem of people and a large community who now see Bitcoin not simply as a monetary network, not only as a digital cash, nor even digital gold, they now see it as a platform for building applications.
Man, these kids, man.
Despite all this, Ethereum Layer 2s are still dominating the space. They had a head start, and there is just a larger variety of them that can be built on Ethereum. And there are several other important differences of Ethereum Layer 2s from Bitcoin Layer 2s, and that is what I would like to talk about in this video. There are 4 criteria that I would like to compare them on, and we'll start with purpose and use cases. Even though Layer 2s in general are just used as scaling solutions, so to increase the usability of the network by reducing its gas fees or increasing the number of transactions per second, there are slight differences in the use cases for these transactions that people want. For Ethereum Layer 2s, people are more focusing on their use of this higher TPS and higher scalability for applications and for smart contracts. There are still some, of course, that are trying to be more of a payment thing, but for Ethereum, this whole thing of rollups, Layer 2s, and different ways of scaling Ethereum is to make sure people can deploy games or some other high transaction and high speed applications on top of Ethereum with ease. For Bitcoin, on the other hand, even though they are trying to introduce some Layer 2s or some kind of side channels, they are more used as an addition to expand the monetary system of Bitcoin. Yes, there are some, especially now, that are trying to introduce new functionality to Bitcoin, such as EVM compatibility or privacy. Most Bitcoin Layer 2s are still focusing on just scaling the monetary network of Bitcoin. And that nicely transitions us into smart contract support. Most Ethereum Layer 2s are Solidity compatible, so you can just develop your typical applications as you would on Ethereum. So you have very large variety of smart contracts with this programming language called Solidity. For Bitcoin, you do not have this programming language. In fact, there is a much more nuanced and much more limited programming language that you use. It's called Script. For Bitcoin, if you use Script, there are many limitations in comparison to Solidity. And it was done on purpose so that you have simple applications and you do not have any kind of complexity and you don't have the risk of added complexity. So that kind of limits the types of Layer 2s that can be built on top of Bitcoin as well. You can see that there are multiple rollups, ZK rollups, optimistic rollups, and just a variety of different like Validium type rollups on Ethereum. Most of them cannot be properly built on Bitcoin. Based on my research, which I will admit may be limited, there are 4 main types of rollups. Ethereum supports all 4, whereas Bitcoin only supports 2. So there are state channels, which are just off-chain transaction channels that settle on-chain, only the final state after multiple microtransactions. That is just how Lightning Network works for Bitcoin, and that is the most famous example of a Bitcoin Layer 2, even though it's not exactly a Layer 2. And there are some state channel types of Layer 2s for Ethereum as well. Those are Connext and Raidnon Network. The next one is Sidechains. Polygon actually for Ethereum started off as a sidechain before. So those are independent blockchains that run in parallel to the main chain and they are connected through a two-way peg. For Bitcoin, there are such types available. This is a liquid network and rootstock or RSK. Then there are 3 main types of rollups. Bitcoin does not really support neither of them. However, there are some companies that are trying to build them on top of Bitcoin, but it seems to be very early stage, so I cannot comment on that yet. As of now, I would say they're not really supported on Bitcoin. On Ethereum, on the other hand, you have both Validium, Optimistic, and ZK rollups.
These are my ladies.
And number 4, plasma chains. Bitcoin also does not support those, at least to my knowledge. For Ethereum, however, we have OMG network. That is an example of such a thing. And we are continuing to criterion number 3, which is probably the most controversial out of all these, and that is security and decentralization of these Layer 2s. Layer 2s on Ethereum often rely on smart contracts-based mechanisms to ensure data availability and security. They can leverage Ethereum's native security, however, there is added complexity and therefore risk over the programmable nature of smart contracts. Furthermore, for rollups, for example, there are multiple components to these layer 2s. Some of them are already decentralized, and many of them, many layer 2s, have only in the roadmap to decentralize them. So if you look into this L2Beat website, which kind of outlines this whole thing, you basically see that many of them have this decentralizing the sequencer, decentralizing that, decentralizing this on the roadmap. However, at the moment and at launch, it is not yet there, so there are some concerns to be raised. Bitcoin in this regard is slightly different, but not too different. Of course, there are some concerns over any kind of layer 2s that people have, and this leads me nicely to criterion number 4 that I would like to discuss, that is development focus and community of different ecosystems. So for Ethereum, there is, as I initially started with, there is a large focus on programmability, smart contracts, and just the use of Ethereum as an all-purpose chain. So there is a variety of different layer 2s with a variety of functions. Some of them are like app-specific even, some of them are more general use case. But overall, there is just this emphasis on making Ethereum as programmable, as usable for different type of things as possible. So it's like a Swiss knife kind of thing. For Bitcoin, on the other hand, even though there are these companies that are bringing a couple of new features to Bitcoin, they are very novel and they're still in the very early stage of development. And most significant layer 2s on Bitcoin are still focused on just scaling the payments of Bitcoin, I would say. At least that's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Nevertheless, I do see the potential for more Bitcoin layer 2s that are in early stage, as I said now, to bring more stuff to Bitcoin, because these runes, ordinals, BIP20 token standard are not for nothing. So there may be something there. So now let's kind of have a bottom line. Layer 2s are used as scaling solutions mostly. For Ethereum, these scaling solutions are needed to expand its use of smart contracts, to expand its use of different types of applications, and introduce new use cases for Ethereum. For Bitcoin, there is still a dominance of layer 2s being used more as an expansion of its monetary system. However, there are many new projects that are trying to bring new functionalities to Bitcoin via layer 2s, such as EVMs, privacy, and other. However, they're still very early stage, so the payment thing is dominating, I would say, the Bitcoin layer 2 space. There are certain inherent technical differences between Bitcoin architecture and Ethereum architecture that don't really allow for Bitcoin layer 2s to be as complex as those on Ethereum, although some projects are trying, as I already said. So, because of the use of programming language called script for Bitcoin, this, at the moment, it supports 2 main types of rollups out of 4. Those are sidechains and side channels. Ethereum, on the other hand, supports 4 types of different types of layer 2s. So in addition to sidechains and side channels, it also supports plasma chains and 3 different types of rollups. I kind of made this overview for myself, but if you also found it useful and you're still watching, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.